Herm, can we finally put to rest the debate, best quarterback of all time, best coach of all time?
For some and for some, no. But that's just the world we live in. You know, everyone will have an opinion about Tom Brady and obviously Bill Belichick. But, Bill's going to go down as he's one of the best coaches to ever coach the game of football. He's there with George Halas and obviously Vince Lombardi. And then you have Bill Belichick, what he's been able to accomplish, especially in the free agent world that we live in now. And it's very difficult. And Tom Brady's right there with him as well. I mean, the things that this guy has done with the different type of players he's played with. You know, not many Hall of Famers on that offense in his career. I know Randy Moss might be in a Hall of Fame, and if Gronk can play long enough, he's probably going to get in the Hall of Fame as well. Brady, obviously, first ballot, but not many guys. And when you live in an era where you think about all these high-round picks that play on offensive football teams, he doesn't play with a whole bunch, and he continues to win big, win Super Bowls.
Who's more important, Brady or Belichick?
I think it's a great combination. And I think if you go back historically and you look at some of the great combinations, Bart Starr, Vince Lombardi, Chuck Noll, Bradshaw, you talk about the Dallas Cowboys, Tom Landry, and obviously Roger Staubach. And you go back, and his story tells you, Don Shula, what he was able to accomplish as well. That quarterback and him were locked hip and hip, and they won a lot of games, those teams that I just mentioned.
Let's talk about yesterday specifically, Herm. We're talking with Herman Edwards here on the Michael Kay Show. Don and I have been talking about this, the two drives by the Falcons. I don't understand why they're dropping back on 3rd and 1. And after the Julio Jones catch in the second drive, they're set up for a field goal, and again, they're dropping back. Do you have a problem with the way the game was called?
Well, I just think this. I think they're a very aggressive offense, and I think at that point in time, that's when the head coach has to come in and obviously, remind everyone the situation of the game. You're not playing so much against New England and trying to score points in the fact that you don't need touchdowns. You need the clock to run down and keep the ball away from them. And with that being said, I think when you visit with the coordinator, you say, look, this is what I would like. I don't want the ball snapped until 4 seconds on the clock. And if we decide to throw a pass, I want it quick. I want something quick. In other words, 3-step, get it out of his hands, let him complete something. So we need to make first downs and get a little bit closer. And if we continue to move the ball down the field and score a touchdown, that's fine. But we don't want to get ourselves out of position to kick a field goal, because with that, they won't have enough possessions to actually win the game.
See, that's what I was saying before, Herm. I just wonder, as an offensive coordinator, there's probably a disconnect there, right? I mean, you do what you do. You read the defense that's on the field at the same time. It's really up to the coach to tell them, hey, they're doubling us in plays. My defense is exhausted. We've got to play against type here. We've got to play to the score. We've got to play to the time. That falls on the coach more than the OC, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where the head coach has to step in, and they're an aggressive team. I mean, they've done this the whole year. They've been very aggressive how they want to play football and what they do as a football team. But I think at that point in time, the head coach, and, hey, Coach Quinn's a new head coach, too. I mean, he's done a fabulous job there. I mean, so I'm not trying to, pick on coaches and say I got all the answers. I made my share of mistakes as well. And I don't know if this was a mistake in his mind. He might have just said, just keep going. This is who we are. We're not going to deviate from that. I got the MVP as a quarterback. But the problem is when you flip the other side of the ball and you look at what's happening to you, and your defense is on the field for long periods of time. I'm talking about a defense that basically wore down. This reminded me a lot of the national championship game. When you think about the numbers involved in this, the New England Patriots offense has 96 plays. That's unheard of. Or, 93 plays. That's unheard of. And the Atlanta Falcons only had 46.
And that's why they had no legs at the end. And another thing that I had a problem with, Herm, I wonder if you felt this way. They get the ball with 52 seconds left, and all of a sudden they're conservative. If their defense comes back on the field, they're going to lose.
Yeah. Well, they, and here again, and this is where the coach needs some help on the Amendola play. If you have coaches up in the box and looking at that, you can't challenge that. That's a catch. So you lose your timeout. So now you got no timeouts. It's like, wait a minute. Well, you don't want to challenge that one, coach, if he caught it. So you got to help the coach there. So there's a lot of little things that we can go back to. I mean, we can go back to the onside kick, obviously, that New England attempted, and Atlanta got the ball on the 41 and went 3 and out.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on the 41 and went 3 and out. They punted. And then, to me, there's just so many little plays, and we'll always go back to the fourth quarter. We'll go back to that situation. But there's so many little plays in this game and that's what games are won on, the little things, and and they come back to get you at the end.
I want to debate the 52 seconds left at the end of regulation, Coach, because I think that's a little bit more debatable just because the Patriots had 2 timeouts. So what's your thinking there, Herm? Are you thinking, let's be aggressive, let's score, or are you concerned, listen, if we get a drop pass, an incompletion, they use their timeouts, I might be punting from my own 10 and giving them a chance to win in regulation. So I'm not going to hammer him as much because I do think that there was a scenario that the aggressiveness could have bit him.
Well, yeah, but you've been aggressive all year. And I think, you got to try to play to your strengths. You have to send messages to your football team when you're the head coach. You got to send signals, we're going to stay aggressive, or also we're not going to be aggressive, because the problem is that when you look at this game, how it unfolded, especially in the first half, the New England defense basically gave up 7 points. I mean, the other 14 points was due to turnovers. I mean, the 1 touchdown. And when you look at the game, you go, we have 42 plays on offense. They only have 19. And so it's kind of one of those games where the score really doesn't tell you really what's happening. It tells you, they got 21 points. This is going to be a blowout. Where you're going, my defense is really playing pretty good against a team that can score a lot of points. And we basically given them 2 scores. If we can continue to play defense this way, which they were able to do, held them to 7 points the second half, we got a chance.
And here's the thing that drives me a little nuts, Herm. They're not aggressive with 52 seconds left. But they were aggressive the previous 2 turns when they shouldn't have been.
You're going to say exactly.
Yeah. Right. So if you're going to live by the sword, die by the sword, then you got to be that way at 52.
No, and you make a great point, and that's what happens. We've seen this before. We've seen this in big games before, where you get out of your comfort zone and you don't do what you say you are.
Right.
We saw this happen to Seattle. Right. We saw Seattle get inside the 2-yard line, and they say we're a running football team, and we got a really big back that's been running pretty good, and we throw a pass.
Coach, if there were 2 handoffs in 2 Super Bowls, they've got 4 Super Bowl losses rather than 5 wins.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what the game comes down to. It comes down to some decisions. If they make them right, you're good. You're a great coach. If you don't make them, then people second guess you.
How does Atlanta get up from this, Coach? I mean, the Seattle loss, they had won the Super Bowl the year before. When the Yankees blew a 3-0 series lead in 2004, they had won 4 championships in 5 years just so recently. I mean, this defines the Falcons, right? I mean, anytime anybody brings up the Falcons, this loss is going to define them. How do you get up from that?
Yeah, they got to get over it. It's kind of like we hope they don't go through what the Cubs went through, right? They don't have to wait that long.
Right.
But they've got a nice nucleus there. They've got a young football team now. They got a quarterback that obviously they're going to pay him his money. And the problem they have is like all teams. First of all, they play in a division where every team has gone to a Super Bowl. And if you look at some of the history of that, when you look at, obviously, the Saints, they haven't recovered yet.
Right.
And you look at Tampa Bay, they haven't recovered yet. Well, Carolina went down this year. Will they recover? We'll find out. Now, Atlanta's the last team to go in this division. How will they take on this next season? I would think with the characters they have in that locker room and the coaching staff that, they will try to come back and get themselves in position to win again. But as we know, it's very, very difficult once you lost a Super Bowl or even win one to get back that next year.
One final thing, Coach, and I mentioned this earlier. I think we live in the now where we're so self-important that everything is the best ever. Like, I've read people say this is the best game ever, and, it's the greatest comeback ever, but I don't think it was the best game ever. Do you?
Well, I don't know that. I know this. That you're right. We live in the now, and we were talking about that today, and I think the best game for me ever in the Super Bowl was the first one I watched in 1967. And it was the Green Bay Packers against the Kansas City Chiefs. I was 13 years old. And I said, what is this game they're playing on television? Super Bowl I. This is the Super Bowl. For me, it was like, wow. If I play football, I want to play in that game, right? So, we can debate it, but I tell you what, it was a game in the fact that we needed a game like this for the National Football League. When your season ends, you want a Super Bowl to end something like this. Whether you got a dog in the fight or not, or whatever it may, I shouldn't use that word. I said whether you got anybody in the fight or not. it's the culmination of a season in the National Football League. And you want it to end like this because it was highlighted with a lot of big plays and there was drama. And when you watch a Super Bowl game, this is how you want it to look, regardless of who wins.
Great stuff. Thanks, Coach.